So, usually, Joe, this is where I say something funny and you laugh. However, I think it's only appropriate given the circumstances of the week that we scrap the banter and just get right on the point with the single top story of the week, which is the death of Kobe Bryant.
Yes, yeah. I was at pizza delivery, and all of a sudden my sister sends me a text. She's like, "Kobe's dead," and then before I could even respond, my dad's like, "Kobe's dead." I'm like, "What?" And I'm on the Bleacher Report app. I'm searching the internet. I'm like, not getting anything. And I'm like, how the hell do they know? I'm trying to figure it out, and I keep checking for the next like 20 minutes. I don't really see anything. And then finally it breaks, and it's like, oh, I guess this is true. Because you know how it is with like celebrities. Like Jackie Chan's like dead every like 2 years, it seems, and then he's
Well,
still alive.
that's how people knew about it. That TMZ broke the story even before the police could, which I know got some irked responses from the LAPD. But I had just woken up. I had stayed up late the night before with work, and I woke up and I saw my girlfriend had tweeted Kobe. And I'm like, why is Kobe in the news? And then I looked online and it's like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah, it's
And
just
it's
a complete, utter shock. Uh, I mean, for even Shaquille O'Neal to be upset, that definitely shows something. Because
not just
yeah,
Shaq, the entire league. There
no,
was
I know,
a
but
lot
like
of
Shaq was definitely like one of he didn't always be the best of friends with Kobe, so that was sort of like a big thing. You knew this was a. I mean, considering he's one of the best NBA players of all time, uh, this is gonna warrant something good.
but you had teams across the league intentionally putting fouls as part of their
Yep.
tributes. There were players crying. There was a legitimate criticism after the couple days that why didn't, given all the emotion and charged around it, that the league might have considered suspending a few games. Certainly the Lakers game
Yes.
that should have been suspended, but that kind of in the past. Also, it should not be remiss to say that it wasn't just the death of Kobe Bryant; it was also the death of his one of his daughters, as well as seven other
13.
occupants of the plane.
13
And
is too young. What was it? One of the baseball coaches for I think it was Oregon.
yeah,
Oregon.
yeah,
Um, he died. His wife died. I think somebody else in that family. So now it's just like the girl and her older brother. So that's really rough. This is just this has not been a good January. I feel like there's been a celebrity death at like every day in
this isn't
January.
This isn't 2016 levels yet, but it's certainly starting off with a bang.
This is crazy.
And it's
Um,
going to be interesting to find out because apparently I didn't know this, but helicopters, or at least the helicopter that Bryant was in, are not required to have a black box, which to me sounds
yeah, that's a little sketchy.
absurd. Like the black box is there to find out if in the event something goes wrong, which certainly happened here.
Yeah.
Tell us the last few minutes of the flight and what happened, because all we know is that from observations and such is that the helicopter took off. It was a very foggy
Mm-hmm.
LA morning, which is unusual for the area, but most other flights were grounded. They were so low they couldn't even be picked up by radar,
Yep.
and somehow they wound up in the side of a mountain, and no one really knows why.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people are making jokes and whatnot because I guess that's how they deal with things. I know that's how I deal with things sometimes. But some people were like, "Oh, it's the Illuminati." LeBron got into it because he had just passed Kobe for I think it was like third most points in NBA history the night before.
Yeah,
So, uh,
frightening the timing of that.
yeah, I know it was quite scary. I had one guy. He told me he's like, they should have taken Bill O'Reilly instead. I was
You
like,
don't wish that stuff on anyone.
I know. It was just like, all right, this is
Yeah.
getting a little out of hand, but
Although speaking of that, I do have a curious thought. Are you after this? A few people brought up the 2003 sexual assault case in which Bryant was arrested for what he says he thought was a consensual relationship, but realized after was not. And there were several people like either saying that yes, he's a great guy, but let's not forget this. Others outright celebrating his death over this,
Yeah,
and
it's
reporters getting suspended and fired and then rehired, and just crazy. Personally, I think that yes, he had this case, and they were settled out of court,
hmm
but
which means he was
put
guilty.
yeah, kind of, and that should be part of his conversation. You can put the asterisk there if you want it, but don't let it take away from who Kobe Bryant was, who he was as a family person, who he was on the court, who he was off the court, all the good that he did. And that's not saying that he didn't do anything bad. It's just saying that let let's celebrate the life that he was, and then we can talk about all the other stuff after his family lays him to rest,
Yeah,
along with everyone else in this tragic event.
yeah. I mean, everyone makes mistakes. I mean, some mistakes are definitely worse than others. Um, but you shouldn't let one thing define your entire life. People are capable of changing. I'm sure after that whole debacle and incident, he came to terms with things. He seemed to say he sort of understood the point of view, whether that was for money reasons or whatever else it was. It seemed like he had turned a new leaf. He has, no, not anymore, but had four
Yeah,
daughters, the wife. Uh, he seemed to be very well liked in that aspect. But so you can't really let one moment define who you are, because I mean, let's face it, how many other NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL players have been in similar situations and life. I'm not saying what he did was good or bad. Obviously, it was well, like it was bad.
yeah.
Um,
No
but
denying that.
um, but you can't just let it define who you are. You gotta move on, accept, come to terms, and just try and live a better life.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think unless you have anything to add, that's the best way to end off on this topic.
I'm still salty about the 2010 NBA Finals. Hashtag Go Celtics.
Uh, by that logic, I'm salty about the 2017 ALCS and the 2019 ALCS,
um,
but we've litigated that to death.
yes.
Yeah.
Um,
But what other big news is coming up is the Super Bowl between the San Francisco Giants and the Kansas City Royals. Wait, sorry, I picked up a leaflet from the 2015 World Series. It's the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs this year.
both
My
teams I really
apologies.
hate.
I am indifferent, really. I would like the Chiefs to win, considering that they're about as hapless as the Jets have been chasing the Super Bowl.
It's painful being a Jets fan. Never ever be a Jets fan. It's just it's awful. Been a quarterback away for the last like 50 years.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, the Kansas City Chiefs, they were dropped back. I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. They were like, I think they finished the season like 2-14, but yet their defense boasted like 7 All-Stars. They just had no offense going for them. Uh, Fast forward, Andy Reid comes in, Alex Smith comes over, and Alex Smith was by no means a top tier quarterback, but he is what I call a game manager. You can win a Super Bowl with him. He almost very well did that with the 49ers. But, Colin Kaepernick became a thing, and Harbaugh didn't want to sort of let Smith continue.
yeah.
So,
And Let's also not forget the Chiefs got two things that going for them going into them. Number one is that the only reason they're there is because the Texans had one of the most abysmal playoff games in recent memory, being up, what was it, 21 or nothing in the first quarter?
Yeah.
And then ending 50 to 20, whatever, ridiculous, 48 unchallenged points.
Yeah, it was insane. But anyway, so with the Chiefs, they had Alex Smith, but then Smith got injured, as he had during his time with San Francisco, and in comes a guy known as Patrick Mahomes. And Mahomes is just another breed. I know we've seen young, electrifying quarterbacks. We thought we saw that with uh, Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, even Kaepernick a little bit. But Mahomes is just something different. He knows how to move, just like Russell Wilson. Uh, Mahomes, though, what separates him from Russell Wilson, who I consider one of the best quarterbacks in the league, is that he can throw the ball from just about anywhere in any foot position, and it is incredible. Some of these things, I mean, the one touchdown run Mahomes had the other week, where he ran like 40 yards to the end zone. Most quarterbacks would just, when they're scrambling, they would just run right out of bounds and just be like, all right, don't hit me. Mahomes challenged that, kept running, and some of those defenders probably were expecting him to run out of bounds or to even like slide and just give himself up, but he didn't, so a lot of those were like missed tackles. And Mahomes is just different. He keeps going. He kept fighting through. He's like, this is our year. We lost last year. We should have won. And props to him and his Kermit voice.
Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here.
So, and I always like a good Andy Reid story. Have I always thought he's the best coach? No, but I think he makes for a good character. I love seeing the Halloween costumes every year. The kids dressing up as him. So I guess if I'm going to pick a team, it's going to be Kansas City. I just don't like the 49ers. I think they're good, but I don't think they're good enough.
I'm not sure. I mean, the 49ers, they had definitely the easier time, since one, as I said, the Chiefs had to see the Texans blow up to get there, and two, the Chiefs had to go against the Patriot Killers and the Titans, and what was looking to be a magical run before they finally ran out of steam in the AFC finals.
The only thing I'm sort of a little concerned about with the 49ers is that their quarterback, Jimmy G, he really hasn't thrown much in the last month. He might be very ice cold. In the NFC Championship game, he threw like 9 passes, which is crazy considering this is in a quarterback-driven league where if you don't have a quarterback, the Jets, you're not really going to succeed. I know defense wins you a championship, but it's really about the quarterback. And
no other sport is so for one singular position than the NFL is. That yes, you can talk about the tight ends, you can talk about the linebackers, but it's really all about the quarterback.
It's about the quarterback. I mean, the offensive line does help too, but it's definitely about the quarterback, and I don't think he has enough repetitions to go and do this. It's been 2 weeks. It'll be 2 weeks since the NFC game, and he basically threw more warm-up passes than he did actual passes in the game. Now, whether ground and pound works out again for him, maybe.
Well, let's give the 49ers some credit. They are the number 1 seed out of the NFC.
Yes.
They had the second best record behind the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like that if one part is slightly a little off kilter that they can't recover from it.
But they also came inches away from getting that number 5 seed. at the last second of Game 16, Week 17, to the Seattle Seahawks. So they came real close, but so I think they have their weaknesses. I mean, we've definitely seen the Chiefs have their weaknesses, but Mahomes' strengths seem to sort of overbalance that.
Yeah, and I think the fact that the Chiefs are so overly due for this,
Yeah,
where the 49ers,
the Chiefs are hungry. They're really hungry.
The 49ers, they've had a championship run in the last 10 years or so, back in the Colin Kaepernick era, which seems like ages ago.
Yeah.
As a player, but I'm going to go for the Chiefs as well. I think it's their time.
Then again, the way I've been picking the NFL playoffs this year, it probably will be the 49ers, but who knows? Who knows?
Speaking of stuff, who knows? What's this about Gary Sanchez being in Seattle?
Yeah, I heard about that. The Kraken might be switching to the NHL. Uh, yeah, no, there's supposed to be another expansion NHL hockey team in Seattle, and rumors have been going around what different things are supposed to be, and now the unofficial rumor right now is the Krakens. I'm not really a fan.
No, I mean it's better than some of the other names. The Seattle Sockeye, the Seattle Totem. Like, what can you put as a good name for a Seattle
years
club?
ago when there was talk about another Seattle team, I actually thought it was kind of cool. It was called the Seattle Reign, but it would be spelled with an R, Reighn, or however you spell rain, like a king, because Seattle's always supposed to be a rainy city, and I thought that was kind of clever.
I mean, I'd go a little step further. Instead of doing it like that, just making the Seattle Rainiers like Mount Rainier, right near Seattle. Tie it to the home geography.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and then maybe you could put like a crown on top of the mountain or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, this does give an interesting debate to future franchises because a lot of the good names have already been taken and such. So, like as we talk about with Seattle though having an NHL team, Portland and Nashville talking about potential major league franchises. Las Vegas getting more and more of the stuff. Like we're running out of creative names unless we want to double up on names like the Giants or the Rangers again.
I don't know. If you really think about it, sort of like Gen 1 Pokemon, some of them aren't really that creative. I mean, you have the Senators, you have the Capitals. I mean, you even have a team called the Canucks. I mean, that's just not very politically correct.
True, and you also have really creative ones: the Reds, the Browns, the Blues,
the Red Sox, the White Sox.
The Whites. Hey, then we can make it the Seattle Blue Sox.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think creativity is just it's whatever it's gonna be. It's gonna sell millions of dollars in merchandising anyway. So, for all we care, they could be the Pansies.
You know, it would actually be a cool name for them. Go back way back in history and bring back the Seattle Pilots, the original name of the Milwaukee Brewers in their one season in Seattle.
Yeah, who knows what these billionaires are gonna do? Not our job.
Yeah, very rarely does this decision come to the fans.
Yeah. Wish it would, at least like let the people in Seattle pick and choose maybe what team they want to support. I remember in grade school we were naming the basketball teams and like what we were going to be St. Anthony's. It ended up being the Saints, but a lot of the kids in my class wanted to vote for the Ants. And there were a lot of kids in my class, and we almost swung the vote. We would have been the St. Anthony's School Ants.
School Ants, that's a very terrifying name.
There are some pretty dangerous ants, like the bullet ant and some of those other, and those are like, they're vicious. They're
Yeah,
tough. But I digress. So we'll see if Gary Sanchez becomes the official mascot of Seattle.
yeah.
Um, and then we still have, what is it? Puig is still on the market, right?
Puig's the last man standing after Castellanos signed. He's the last major free agent, and it seems like he's been left without a chair because, yes, the Rangers could sign him, uh, fill in that hole that they missed out with Ozuna and Castellanos, but other than that, all its remaining suitors are either teams that aren't contending, like the Giants and the Tigers, or teams that are up against a payroll wall, like the Indians.
What about the
So
Padres?
the Padres, I think if anything, they're after the Mookie
Mookie
Betts
Betts.
rumors, considering that they certainly have the prospect talent to acquire Betts. Although it's still anyone's guess if he's actually going to be moved in time. I personally feel that there's enough chatter that it's more likely than not before the offseason wraps up. But it depends on a few other factors, like how they said that the Diamondbacks were in the running, and then they traded for Starling Marte. And I think personally, considering they still have Dave Peralta signed up, they signed Cole Calhoun. I think that leaves without a chair over there. But then again, Marte's going to line up in center, which is not something Betts can really do. So maybe there's still creative room. And certainly, if you're going to go after an acquisition like that, you will make the room on the roster for
Yeah.
a guy of that caliber.
I kind of feel for Mookie though. I mean, you're on a team that won a cheated its way to a World Series.
Yeah.
You were named MVP. You had a bit of a down year, but then again, how much more up can you really go? um,
Yeah. And you're getting ready to finally cash in and get your big paycheck.
Yep. And he's basically being kicked to the curb because he's too expensive on a team that is owned by probably the wealthiest group of people in MLB. But hey, I guess it's a business and they know how to make more money than I do. So what do I know?
Clearly, considering how it's certainly working. But speaking of the cheating, I guess the last thing for today, just finalized that the Astros have a new manager who's now the oldest manager in baseball, Dusty Baker, signed to what's a 1 year deal with a club option, which I find rather curious. I was talking to my uncle about this before we came on, and he does not like the signing in terms of what the Astros, saying that Baker is an old school manager who is not too keen on change and is hesitant on the analytical side. And my argument for Baker was the analytical side is basically what MLB eviscerated
Yep.
in their report
Mm-hmm.
on the sign stealing scandal. That they were so laser focused on the stats and the singular focus of winning that they compromised the integrity of the game, which is something that certainly Baker I do not see doing at all. That he is someone who can go in there, calm that clubhouse down, reset it, and in 1 or 2 years they can go and do a proper managerial hire.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's the Astros' smartest move. Do I think he's going to be the manager to get them a World Series? Probably not. Maybe I'll be wrong again, but I think for the organization, it's exactly what you said. It's a smart move by them. He's so old school that he'll probably just ignore everything or most things, and it'll reset him. And in a year or two, it'll all be good, and they can pick whomever they really want.
Although we say that, and the Astros are coming up against some interesting decisions. Next year, George Springer's a free agent. The year after that, both Greinke, Verlander, and Carlos Correa are all free agents. So the window's starting to close a bit on them if they don't make the right moves and get the right talent. Certainly on that pitching side, losing Garrett Cole, that they need to find a nice young replacement arm soon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Carlos Correa is going to leave. I really think he is.
Really, you think Correa? I think Springer's the one who would leave first, mainly because I feel that they would rather lock up that shortstop position, get that entire infield settled, and then mix and match with the outfield.
I mean, Correa was a number one pick.
Yeah, he was
Um,
the one who kind of helped usher
yep.
in this as a surprise first overall pick.
He's had some good numbers, but he hasn't like blown me away as say Altuve. Um, but and I know the shortstop market is thin, um, but I just don't see him coming back. I think he's just gonna go elsewhere, and uh, I don't know. Maybe someone in the National League will pick him up.
I
But
mean, also look at it from what that expected market's going to be for shortstops.
mhm.
That's also going to be the year where Francisco Lindor is a free agent. I believe Corey Seager's a free agent at that time. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know.
So it's a very loaded position in free agency in 2 years, barring extensions and such. So the Astros might be keen to lock him up now and at still expensive, but certainly cheaper than trying to go after one of the bigger fish.
Yeah. Didi could be free too. 'Cause, I know he's got the 1 year, but is it a club option too?
No, it's just a flat
It's just a flat 1 year.
flat 1 year, if I remember.
Mm.
So that way you can re-enter the market next year where it's a lighter option, and then try again for his big contract. But it's many interesting decisions for the Astros. And quick before we sign off, Luis Rojas, who's the manager of the Mets, I can't really say that the Mets would have been good or bad with hiring a experienced manager at this juncture, because they were already going after a new face, and they basically were collateral damage to all this. So hiring someone within wasn't the worst move they could have done. Personally, I still think that a Girardi or a Showalter should have been their first choice from the
Yeah.
get-go instead of Beltran, but at this point it's moot.
Yeah, I mean, he comes from a good family line.
Yeah, so
Alu.
yeah, the Felipe and Moises Alou.
So I mean, he comes from a good family name. Like you said, he's internal guy, so he sort of knows the system a little
Yeah,
bit. So
he's come up with Pete Alonso and Jeff McNeil and Brandon Nimmo, so
yeah,
that's
so
certainly great with familiarity. And he'll certainly be the youngest manager in baseball now. Like, because of this sign stealing scandal, we now have a new oldest manager and a new youngest manager, which
yeah,
is pretty
so
interesting.
I think for the Mets, for what it is, it's a good hire for now. We'll have to see, obviously. Um, and I guess just remember, it's time is relative. If we believe it's Tuesday, it very well could be Tuesday.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, and just like that, it can't really be Tuesday somewhere at all times, but we can certainly try to pretend.
All right, I'll catch you later. And peace
Hopefully,
out.
hopefully we'll have happier news to lead off with next time.
And buy pizza for the Super Bowl. I want
Yeah,
tips.
yeah, for his sake.
All right, I'll catch you later.